Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. So Sujit, like I was today, this meeting was kind of already scheduled and I had some emergency. So
Okay.
I am taking the call from my car actually.
Okay. No
I just
issues.
stopped it somewhere. So I stopped it somewhere and I just started taking it from my car actually.
No problem. So you are calling from Kolkata or Singapore?
So basically right now I'm in Kolkata.
Okay.
And I was there in Singapore for quite a long time, and I was leading chapter Singapore chapter. I mean the chapter Singapore, but right now we do not have anyone who is taking care of the Singapore chapter. So I am just supporting the Singapore chapter and also supporting the Kolkata chapter as well. So
Okay.
once we have someone who would be doing things for Singapore, I'll just quit Singapore. I'll do the handover and then I'll come back to
Okay.
Kolkata.
So you have shifted to Kolkata now.
Yes. That's my native actually.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. I'll just switch off the video and we started then at 3:05.
Okay, no issue.
So Sujit, like we'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes and then we start.
Okay,
We
Swami.
will record the session, and if whoever is not able to join it, so what we do generally, we publish it in our YouTube channel, and we do a lot of sharing in LinkedIn and other social media so that it reaches to all the people who are really interested for the session and who
Okay.
couldn't.
Yeah, sounds good. No problem.
We'll wait for another 2 minutes and then we start.
Yeah.
Shall we start? If you're okay.
Yeah, I'm ready. So we can start.
Yes. Sure. I expected more number of participants, but eventually I think it's Friday. So maybe we do recording, not a problem.
No issues. I think it must be evening, right, in Singapore? I think you are on mute, Somen.
It's not much actually. It's only 2.5 hours. It's 5:30. So it's like late afternoon, maybe. Yeah. I consider evening by 6. I mean 6:30 or 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I will start. No problem. I will share my screen.
I made you the co-host as well. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just share my screen. So
yes, we can see. Yeah.
all right. So Somen, Mani, thank you so much for giving this opportunity to present to you guys today. And welcome to this session. Accelerate and optimize project releases using automation. So I am Sujit. Just a formal introduction. I'm a product manager at Amiboids. Amiboids is a startup based out of Pune, India, and we have a bunch of apps, in Atlassian Marketplace. One of them being automated release notes, which will be the focus of today's presentation. So before I jump to the actual demo, let's have a brief about what actually the release management is and how it helps us to manage our releases in a better way. So this is the agenda. I'll be touching upon these points briefly, and then I will move to the actual demo of the app that I'm going to speak about. So, of course, release management is a critical process, like so many you mentioned initially. These days everyone is moving into like agile-based practices where they are managing their sprints on a bi-weekly basis or monthly basis, or even if you are not using sprints, then even in the Kanban mode of development, you have those monthly or quarterly releases, planned releases, and then there are some ad hoc releases for some managing some bugs and other issues. So it always helps if you manage your release process well, so that to avoid any obstacles in between. So in a typical any release management process, these are the building blocks of any typical where you plan certain tasks in advance, then you start building on them, and then you do a testing, then you prepare some documentation around your release, so be it an internal help documentations or release notes, and then you actually deploy the changes on your productions. So always managing releases and building your softwares in chunks, and they are releasing into chunks of always helps. It helps you to hire your productivity of your team, reduce the risk, and then improve the quality. And of course, it's a shorter part time to market. You can test the market quickly, and then based on the market feedback, then you can build incrementally. So it always helps. Recently, we at Amiboids, we had surveyed around 300 project managers globally, and we asked them various questions around project management in general. Some of them, the questions were around the pain areas that they feel around managing the releases and all those stuff. So I will be sharing a couple of questions here in these slides. Of course, at the end of the session, I will be sharing you with the link of the entire survey, which you can always have handy with you, so that you can also use those insights in your day-to-day life. So one of the questions we had asked to those project managers was that, what are the pain areas or challenges that they face, typical challenges in a particular release. So 30% of them, mentioned that improper setup of priorities is one of the challenge that they face regularly. So if you don't have a proper setup to prioritize your task, a proper framework to prioritize your task and features, then you will face some problems. Then improper bug logging process is another area where 25% of them mentioned. So again, if bugs are not logged in a proper way, then it takes longer for to detect all aspects of the bug and to fix it permanently. Then no single point of contact. So this is related to the communication thing. So you have if you don't have a single person who is responsible to communicate with all the stakeholders around the release internally as well as externally, then it becomes a chaotic situation where no one's actually knows what is happening and everyone is asking every each other. So that's a situation that many of them face. And the last one, that 20% of them mentioned that release notes in multiple formats. So preparing release notes in multiple formats for different stakeholders is a cumbersome task. It's a time-taking task and it's a repetitive task. And it's not a really a creative task that typically a project manager or a product manager or anyone who's a senior team leader who are in charge of drafting those release notes and then distributing it to various stakeholders. So that's another pain area that many of them mentioned. Another interesting question that we had asked to these participants was that, do you really read the release notes? So be it prepared by yourself, or even if it is not prepared by yourself, if you are using anyone a third party software, so do you really read their release notes? So 57% of them mentioned that we read everything in the release notes, while the 43% mentioned that we read only specifics. So this gives us one insight to us that not everyone reads everything in your release notes. So if you prepare a generic release note, which is meant for all the stakeholders, then it might not suffice because not everyone is interested in all aspects of your releases. They will be concerned about the aspects of software or product which are related to them. So for example, your customers would be interested in knowing new features or any improvements in the feature that you brought in this particular release, while your sales team will be interested into knowing something different, like a hot feature that they have been demanding for long, whether it is released in that particular release. Or your CTO for that matter might be interested into any architectural changes or major software side or IT infrastructure side changes that you have done in this particular release. So he will be interested into that particular zone of your release, while your higher management or your executives might be interested into some numbers, like number of new features that you have released or number of critical bugs that you have resolved in this release. So this is how every stakeholder looks into the in a particular release from their point of view, their zone of work. So preparing a generic release notes for all the stakeholders doesn't help, and you have to prepare customized release notes for each stakeholder and give them sufficient and important information which is relevant to their area of work. And that's the ideal way to do the release notes. So what are the challenges while we prepare those release notes generation? It's a tedious and inaccurate exercise because most of the times it's a manual process where just so many you mentioned earlier, like most of the times what teams do is that they gather all the data into an Excel sheet from their Jira tickets if they are using Jira. If they are not using Jira, then they might be using some other ticketing software. So whatever it is, but they will actually first gather all the data of those tickets into an Excel sheet. From Excel sheet, they will scan through them and then find out what are the important things that needs to go into the release notes. And based on that, then you will have to draft those type and draft those release notes, whether it is in Word format and then convert it into a PDF or use it into your release notes emails, or then give it to your web team to publish it on your website. So then again it will go to various channels for distribution. So getting that information from those tickets, Jira tickets, extracting that information is a tedious task exercise. And typically, what I have seen from my own experience, in a moderate, kind of a release, there are 40 to 50 Jira tickets at least involved. And to extract data from all these tickets, it takes around 2 to 3 hours And if you have a bi-weekly, releases, 2 week sprints, then it's a repetitive task. So twice a month, you almost spend a complete day in just preparing release notes. And that's the way some of the, business leaders or project manager, product leaders or team leaders are spending their time on this tedious as well as repetitive task, which is drafting release notes. And add to this the complexity that I mentioned, that if you have to generate a customized release notes, which is customized for each stakeholder relevant to them, then it again adds more complexity to it, and it again adds more time and tediousness. And again, because it is a manual process, again it's going to be, there are going to be manual errors into it, and that's how it actually happens in most of the organizations right now. And automation, that's where we are right now, working in our app called automated release notes. So automating the generation or drafting release notes and distribution of those release notes always helps. It shortens your update cycle. It creates a single point documentation where all your release notes can be compiled together. You can monitor your change log over the period, and then keep all stakeholders, of course, involved and inform about your changes and improve your customer feedback. So like I mentioned, the more customization you do, the more relevant it becomes to that particular stakeholder, and then more good or relevant feedback that you can gain from that stakeholder about your releases. So automated release notes for Jira. This is our app, which is in Jira Marketplace, and you can use this app. We are solving for two challenges, like I mentioned. One is drafting release notes in various formats. And then distribution of those release notes in various channels. So these are the two pain areas which we are solving through automated release notes. So of course, the app is not just limited to release notes, though it is called as automated release notes. So while I give you the demo, I'll explain the extended use cases that you can use this app for, apart from just drafting and distributing your release notes. So now I will move to my Jira screen, and then I will show you the actual demo of this particular app. So this is my Jira instance.
One quick question. One quick question. So is it for cloud, or it's for the data center as well?
It is for both. It is the automated release notes is available in both cloud as well as in data center version.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I'm into my Jira screen right now within my project called Automated Release Notes in my Jira project. And here in the left hand side, I can see a link called Automated Release Notes. So you are seeing two links here, Automated Release Notes. That's because I have installed two versions of Automated Release Notes. So if you go to Jira Marketplace and search for Automated Release Notes, you will get two apps. One is a paid version, and we are also kept a free version of Automated Release Notes. And so because on our instance, both the apps are installed, that's why I'm seeing two links here. But ideally, if you install any one of them, you will see only one link here. So when you navigate to this app, you see a bunch of options here. One is the calendar, tools, templates, release pages, and widgets, logs, and help tab. So the first one, the calendar tab, is basically just a view-only functionality where you can see your planned releases. So whatever the releases that you have created in your Jira in this release tab, based on their release dates, these releases pop up here. So you can have an overview of the releases that are planned in the current month or in the next month, so that you can plan your work accordingly. So this is a view only tab where no extra action is expected. Then there are two most important tabs here, rules and templates. So I will start with templates. So this is the first step. So like I mentioned, we are solving for two pain areas. One is drafting release notes in different formats, and second one is distribution. So templates solves for the first challenge, which is drafting release notes. So in the templates, you can see there are a bunch of templates, predefined template that I have already created in my project. So you can have this template. This is a one-time activity. So whatever the format you want, in that format you can have your template ready, which can be reused for each release. So it's a one-time activity. Once you install your app, you can spend some time, create a template, and then the same template can be reused for every release. So every time you don't have to draft everything from scratch. So you just have to bring in the data from Jira tickets for that particular release into that template. So when I go to create new template option here, you can see template builder form is opening up. So in the first drop down here, you can see the template type. So these are the various types that in which or formats in which you can create your templates for, like for email template, then PDF, Confluence, so JSON format. So there are many applications which read the JSON format and can process that format. So you can also create for your templates in JSON, in HTML, even Markdown for that purpose. Then JSD announcement. So if you are using JSM or JSD portal for your customers, Jira Service Management portal for your customers, so you can publish the notifications on that portal through ARN. So for that, you can create a JSD announcement template, and then release page notification. That release page, I will explain in brief about it in later parts of the session. So let's start with a typical simple template called email template. So I'll just give some name to this template, like ACE demo. And then there is a option to select local and global. So like right now I'm within this Jira project called automated release notes. So if I create a local template, this template will be available only within this particular project. But if I create a global template, then this template will be available across all the Jira projects on my instance. So what you can do is that you can have a set of templates, predefined templates created as a global templates, and all your teams across all the Jira projects can reuse those templates. So again, it saves time. So you can have common branding on all the release notes for all the teams that are generating release notes using ARN. So this is their level. Then this is the email subject, and this is the email body. So in the email body, again, you can see there is some static text like this. This is a Visvik editor, a full-fledged HTML editor, where you can have customize your data as per your requirement. You can customize text as per your requirement, like you can give headings, inline objects, and as well as you can give font colors and other editing stuff. Apart from that, you can see there are some text which is in this square bracket, which are the variables. So you can pull different types of data from Jira using these variables. So there are lots of variables that this editor supports. So for example, user related variables, so username, Jira username and email. So you can include that the person who is generating those release notes. Then you can use the project related variables. So for that particular project, so project name, project ID, project key, which you can pull from Jira. Then version. So for whatever the version, Jira version you are drafting this, or generating these release notes, you can pull data for that version, like version name, description, release date, version ID, version URL, or release start date, or that. Then if you are using sprint in Jira, then you can use sprint related variables like sprint ID, sprint in, sprint goal, sprint start date, sprint complete date, and all those steps. Then date and time variables are there, and then Confluence related some variables are supported. So for example, here you can see I will use some version related variables like version description, version name, release date. So when I will actually publish data using this template, and I will have to give an input of a particular version for which I want to generate release notes, and based on my input, these variables will be replaced with their actual values. So if I give a X version as input, then the description of that X version will be replaced here, and then the project name of that particular version will be replaced here, version name, please just accordingly. Then you will see some sections here which are predefined or pre-created. So I'll just explain what it is. They are called JQL sections. So you can see you also have an option to insert a JQL section in this editor as well. So I will just go to editing of this JQL section. So all the power of this particular app, lies in this particular feature called JQL section. So as the name suggests, as you guys must have used Jira in Jira, the JQLs to search through your Jira tickets. So we are using the power of that JQL in this app to pull data from your Jira tickets into your release notes. So as you can see, there are 3 tabs here in the JQL section. One is the section, then second one is the field, and third one is the layout. The section actually defines the title of the JQL section, the description of the JQL section, and the JQL itself. So in the JQL, it actually defines which are the Jira tickets that you want to pull from your Jira project. So for example, as you can see, but this is not a normal JQL that you generally type while searching your Jira tickets. You can see there the variables are also used within this JQL as well. So when you actually run this particular template, these variables will be replaced by their actual values in the JQL, and then it will pull the data from your Jira tickets. So as you can see here, project is equal to project ID, issue type is equal to story, and fixed version is equal to version ID. So whatever the version input that I will give, based on that, the version ID and project ID variables will be replaced in this JQL, and it will pull all the issues which are of the type story from this particular version, which I'll give you as input. So for let's say assume that it will give you 10 issues. So in a particular version, there are 10 stories that are included. So the first section gives me the number of issues for which I want to pull in my release notes. The second one, the fields option, gives me the data points from those issues which I want to pull in my release notes. So I have given 4 Jira fields here: priority, key, summary, and status. These are the 4 data points for all those 10 tickets or those 10 stories which I want to show in my release notes. So these are the Jira fields. Basically, you can add as many fields as you want. You can also add the custom fields that you might have created in your Jira project in this release notes. So, for example, in our case, we have maintained a custom field called summary for public release notes. So we generally include this into our release notes. Then, so now first section gave me those 10 stories. Then second section gave me the data points from those 10 stories, and the last section gives me the idea of how I want to represent those data points in my release notes, whether in tabular format or in sequential format. Tabular format is a straightforward one, like whatever the fields that you have added, all the fields will form the separate column in that table, and it will pull data in the tabular format. In case of sequential format, I can have my free format which I can define myself. So when I select the sequential option, it gives me another editor where I can define my own layout for my release notes. For example, I just want to show key and summary here. So I can just copy those variables, key and summary variables, and I want them into a bullet list format. So this is a simple layout that I have created, and all the fields that I have added in this section, the variables related to those fields are available to use in this sequential format in this editor here. So this is how I have just created a simple layout, and I will just insert this particular JQL section. In the same way, these different JQL section have been defined, like new features, improvements, tasks, and bugs. So these are all, as you can see, these are all the Jira issue types based on which this JQL section has been created. Then there is another option called stats. So let's suppose at the end of this release note, I just want to have the number of issues that were included in this particular session. So I can include a stats section, which is really same to JQL section, but it only gives the number. It doesn't give any other data points for those issues. So I'll just create a simple JQL here and fix version is equal to version ID. So this is a simple JQL that I have included. So what it will do for that particular version, number of issues, whatever the number of issues are there, it will show me the number here as a stat. So I can have this as a stat section, and I will just save this template now. This template is now ready to use, and now if I click on preview, it will ask me for an input, that is the version. So version input for this particular variable called version ID 0. So let's say we recently had a major release at the end of the month, at the end of the May, called 25th May 2022. I have given this input, and I will click on preview. So based on my input, all the variables in the template and all the JQL sections will now run, and they will pull data from my Jira ticket. So as you can see, the release date is pulled from my version. Then the version name is pulled, my project name is pulled from my Jira tickets, and here it is. the first Jekyll section which we edited into sequential format, it has pulled all those stories which are there in that particular release with their key and summary as their data points, and they are arranged in a bulleted format. And then the second and third Jekyll section didn't have any output, so they are blank. And the fourth one has the bugs, so we didn't edit that, so it has pulled data in tabular format, which was the original format. So it has pulled priority, key, summary, and status. These 4 data points from my Jira ticket. And then this is the stat section that we have added. So it has pulled that there were 58 tickets that were included in this particular release. And this is how the data has been pulled. So this is the template, that a simple template that I have created. So likewise, you can create any number of templates in different formats. So I just showed you the example of email. Similarly, you can create a PDF template, you can create a Confluence template, HTML, JSON, and all those other formats. So this is about the templates where you can have a predefined templates. So you don't have to draft your release notes from scratch for each release. So once you are done with creating those templates, then you can move to the rules. So the rules section actually solves for the second pain area for any project manager or a product manager, that distribution of those release notes into different formats. So for that, you can automate that process using these rules. So I can create a simple rule. Again, I'll give some name to this rule, ACE demo. So as you can see, there are 2 sections here in the rule. One is the trigger and second one is the action. So first we'll discuss about the trigger. So there are many triggers that are available to trigger this particular rule. First and foremost is the manual rule. So you can just manually trigger that particular rule. Then there is a version created rule. So for example, when a new version is created in your Jira project, you just want to inform your development team that this version is created and these are the issues that are included in this version. Then you can trigger this particular rule, and an automated email or a report will be shared with your team. Then version release. So on version release, whenever a version is marked as a release in your Jira project, that rule can be triggered and the release notes can be shared with all the stakeholders. Then schedule before end days of release. So if you want to have a report to be generated and shared with your internal team 1 week prior to your release, like these are the issues which we have included and the release is planned 1 week after this, and this is the status of all the tickets. So based on that, you can share a report in auto-generated way using this trigger. Then schedule at intervals. So for example, every Monday morning, you want to share a particular report with your internal team member or your client or whatever it is. So it will just, you can just have a template, predefined template attached to this particular rule, and it will run itself every Monday morning 10 a.m. and everyone will be informed about the status of tasks that you are working on. Similar to version release, there is a sprint completed trigger where whenever a sprint is marked completed, that particular rule can be triggered. And the last one is the interesting one called webhook. So when I select a webhook trigger and save it, it creates a webhook which is dedicated for this particular rule. So what it can be used for is like, you can trigger a rule of ARN from outside the ARN. So you don't have to come here to trigger a particular rule. So you can just use this webhook URL. In the webhook URL, you can see in the URL parameter, you can give an input of version ID. So based on your version ID input here, it will trigger the rule in the ARN and the release notes can be distributed. So a typical use case for this webhook trigger can be like in your CI/CD pipeline where you do the deployments. You can in that particular deployment script itself, at the end you can include this webhook, which can be triggered at the end of your deployment with the version input, and the rules in the ARN will be triggered and the release notes will be generated. So as soon as your deployment is complete, you can just trigger the rule in ARN and the release notes are distributed to your stakeholders automatically. So that's how you can use this webhook trigger as well. So this is about the triggers, the different triggers that are available. And then with each rule, you can add multiple actions. So for example, the email action is there first. Like we just created an email template, ACE demo. So you can attach that template to this action. Then if you want to send an attachment to that email, so you can have a PDF as an attachment. So these are all the PDF template that already have been created in my project. So you can add Markdown template as an attachment, JSON as an attachment, as well as HTML template as an attachment. So you can create attachments, attach the templates to the email. And then you just have to select the recipients of this particular email whenever this rule is triggered. So you can select a particular Jira user as a recipient. For example, I just select myself here, or you can select a project role. So all the, for example, service desk team. So all the team members of this particular Jira project or Jira role will be informed about this Jira group. So you can select a particular Jira group. Then issue user. So all the issues that are pulled in that particular template while running this rule, the assignees of those rules or reporters of those rules. So you can select those issue user here, so that they will be informed about whenever they will be sent this email whenever the rule is triggered. And then external email IDs you can enter here in the comma separated way. So you can enter as many email IDs here as many you want. If you want all the email IDs as BCC, you can take this part. So this is about the email action. Similar way, you can have a Confluence action. So if you want to create a release note document in your documentation space in Confluence, then you can attach a Confluence template here and just select the instance. So you initially you have to integrate your particular Confluence instance with ARN. This is a one-time activity. Once you have integrated that, then you can select that instance and this particular space from that instance, and then you just have to say that which type of page you want to create, like page or a blog. Then there are multiple actions that are available, like create new. So the create new action will create a new page in that particular space. Create new or update if exists. So same already a page with same name is already available, then you can just update that page. You can append to the existing page or prepend to the existing page. So this is how, like, you have maintain a single release page document in your Confluence documentation space. So you can just append that to that particular page after every release. So it will just append to that page or prepend to that page. And based on that, you can just update your Confluence. That JSD announcement I just explained you earlier. So you just have to select the JSD announcement and the portal ID, JSD portal ID here, and it will trigger the announcement to that particular ID. Post action. In this case, you can now post your HTML, JSON, or Markdown templates to an external endpoint. So you just have to select a, let's say I want to post an HTML to an external endpoint. So I just have to give an endpoint URL here. If it has a authentication or authorization method, a simple authorization method, you can give username and password and save. Then whenever this rule is triggered, this HTML template will be run, and it will be the output of the template will be posted to this particular endpoint externally. So a typical use case can be you can have a application which will accept this HTML template and process it and publish it on your website. So you can maintain a release page website on your website, and it will just publish your release notes on that particular page. Then widget and release page actions are there. So before I go to this particular two actions, I will just explain what release pages and widgets are. These are the additional features that we have provided. These are limited to release pages and widgets are limited to only cloud version. For data center and server, these release pages and widgets are right now not available. So using ARN app, you can create a dedicated release page for your application where you can have a centralized release notes like this. So this is our own release notes for our data center and server version. Here you can see every time we have a new release, a release note is published on this page, and it is shared with all our customers within our app. So this is how you can maintain a release page for your application, a central release page. And the same way, you can also create a widget, so which can be incorporated in any web page within your application or mobile application for that matter. So you can create a web page. For example, within the ARN app itself, we have integrated our own widgets. So when I click, so this is the documentation space. When I click on this icon, our widget gets loaded within our app. So here you can see all our release notes within the app. You don't have to navigate to any Confluence page or any other release page, but you can just see the release notes within the application. So the widgets can be created from our ARN itself, and those, like I mentioned, the widget action and release page action are meant for publishing release notes to those release pages or widgets which are already created by you. So one thing I want to mention here that within a single rule, you can have multiple actions. So linked to your release notes. So for example, this is our one of the rules that we have already created. You can see there are multiple confluence action added to this, multiple release page actions added to this. Same way, you can add multiple confluence action, multiple post actions in a single rule, and all these actions will be triggered whenever this particular rule is triggered. And this is how you can publish your release notes in automated way to various channels. And the log section actually shows you the logs of all the rules that are run, and you can see whether they are successful or fail. If in case of any failure, then you can see the reason for their failure, or you can also see the output of those rules that was triggered. So this is the Confluence page that was created through one of our rule, and it has shown the details of our version called version 4.1. So this is about the ARN. There is another screen for ARN which is available from top navigation panel. This is we call as a cross project release notes. So if you have multiple projects and you want to create a common release notes for all the projects together, then in this cross project screen, you can create the templates for multiple projects together and create the rules and trigger those releases. In that case, it will pull data from multiple Jira projects and into a single template and then trigger those rules. So this is a simple demo, a quick demo about the ARN app that I wanted to show. Of course, the time limit is there, so I cannot explain every aspect of this. But like I mentioned, in the marketplace, we have already published a free version of ARN for a cloud version only. So you can always go to Atlassian Marketplace on cloud and install that ARN free app and explore. There is not much difference between the free and the paid app. The only difference is that in the rule actions, for free app, it is limited to 5 rule executions per month. Apart from that, there is no difference as such between the free app and paid app, and all the features of paid app can be explored using the free app as well. So these are the typical use cases that I already tried to touch upon while explaining all the things. So you can see the post actions, then release notes directly to your applications using, or send your release notes directly to Slack or MS Team using the post action. Then release notes in PDF format directly to a Dropbox account. So there are many use cases that you can generate. One more thing that I wanted to mention here is that, like I mentioned earlier, though it is called as automated release notes, it's not limited to release notes only, because as you can sense, it is based on the power of JQL. So with JQL, you can pull any kind of data. And I also showed you the stats option. So you can create any kind of reports using your Jira tickets data. So it's not just related to release notes, but it can be used for various reporting purpose as well, which you have to do on your day-to-day basis. So you don't have to manually pull data from your Jira tickets. You can just have a predefined template in ARN and pull that data using that template and publish your report in PDF or in Confluence and share it with your team on regular basis. So that's an extended use case that can be, the ARN app can be used for. So,
one quick question, Sujit. Sorry to interrupt. So,
yeah,
I
sure.
mean, as I have seen, like I am from quality engineering background. So basically, we have to take a lot of reports on in terms of quality KPI meeting and dashboards, etc. So
Right.
what we see, like we use a lot of JQL queries for
Right.
fetching the data in the default Jira dashboard. So all types of JQL that we use. So I think those can be leveraged here as well
Right.
for having those reports.
Yes, absolutely. And even if you have created filters, predefined filters in your Jira as well, you can use those filters directly into ARN templates. So they also work, no problem with that. So you can also club 2 filters together and create a new template based on that as well.
So another question: can we extract this to different formats like doc, PDF, and all?
Yeah, like I showed you while creating the template, right now we are supporting these formats. Like extracting a particular document, the PDF is supported right now, and Confluence is supported. Email, then JSON HTML is supported. MS Word, we are right now working on, so it's in progress. So we are working on the Microsoft Word as well.
Got it. Thank you, Sujit, for your info.
Yeah. So at the end, I'm actually done with my demo and presentation. I will share these two resources with you, like I mentioned earlier. The survey that I mentioned, which we had conducted for with 300 global project managers, and a template guide. We have created a blog post where you can explore various release notes templates and how to create release notes, the typical best practices while creating release notes. So we have combined a kind of information in that particular post. So I'll just share that those two links in the chats here. So you can just copy them if you want and share with your team as well, and you can also explore those information. So this is from my side, guys. So I'm open to more questions from you guys.
I already interrupted you and asked a couple of questions, so no more
Yeah.
from my side. Mani, it's up to you.
No questions from my side.
All right. Thank you so much, Mani.
All right, Sujit, like it was really very, very informative session, and definitely this app is going to help a lot of project managers, or a lot of scrum masters, I'll say rather.
Yes.
So who take out the report and who do the daily in and out like manual reporting and release notes and all. On often in manual reporting there are human errors. We miss out the defects. We don't mention it even it is complete or the things. But if we use the query by default, and if that query fetches the result in a particular format, in a particular template, that really makes the the reporting more transparent and more evident, so everyone is aware of everything. Yeah.
Just one point, Somit. Like you mentioned about the reporting, the one typical challenge that I used to face in my previous organization was that we had a time zone difference between the multiple teams that we had, and I used to present a particular report to everyone every morning. And in that case, what used to happen that I used to pull data yesterday evening, and I will just prepare that report. And the morning, first thing I would do is that I would present it. But what it would do is that it is a 12-hour late data, right? So between those 12 hours, again the data must have changed in some cases. So with this kind of automation, you can just create any report instantly, which will give the real-time insight into your data.
Right. Absolutely.
That also helps.
Yeah, this is a very, very valid and important aspect that we can consider. Like we often see like whatever, I mean, I'm telling especially in case of defects, so it is applicable for all issue types in Jira. Like we take out some dump, we make the report manually, and we see like things are okay, and then we see the numbers are changing, like from in progress certain issues has moved to do, because at night they have changed it. So
Yes.
yeah, correct. Yeah. So if Mani has no other questions, I also have none. So Sujit, you would like to add anything or your any tips being a project manager of this, but I mean being the product manager of this particular app, like what was the thought process behind developing this? Like I mean, what was the roadmap that you have figured out while I mean making and the thought that came to your mind, like this is a typical challenge most of the scrum masters face, so we need to come up with something. So what kind of thought process you had in mind actually?
Thought process was simple, like I mentioned. Just most of our apps, you can see, if you see on our website, they are actually towards cutting down those repetitive and cumbersome and least interested tasks, so that you can focus on your creative energies on more creative works, right? Creating reports is not something like excites me. Like if I have to log in every morning, and it doesn't excite me to create a new report. Let's say create a new report. Of course, it's a new functionality I release, and then I would just want to explore new data. Then it's okay. But if it is happening day-to-day basis, then it doesn't excite me. So I just I have faced that kind of situation in my previous organization as well. Even all the managers we have, our founders have, they have experienced these pains firsthand while they were in that zone of their career earlier. So we wanted to address that situation. Again, reporting is one part, but then release notes again, we see many times, if you see these days, release notes have become typically very boring because the creation of release note process is so tedious. With so many Jira tickets you have to scan through, the people have lost interest in drafting some interesting release notes. Because most of the time is spent on extracting data than drafting some creative release notes. So we wanted to people to automate that extraction part and focus on drafting some creative stuff in those release notes. So if I get the data ready-made, I can focus on drafting or release notes in more creative way, which my customers will actually read. And if they read, then they will be more connected with my product. And if they are more connected, then they will be using it more. They will be suggesting more features to me, more improvements to me, which will again give me a good insights into the mindset of my customers. And then it again drives the growth of my product automatically. So this is a dependent process that we wanted to see. So that's why we wanted to cut the clutter of those manual tasks of extracting data into Excel, dumping data in Excel, then scan through each and every tickets, and then decide which to take, which not to take. We wanted to automate that process so that people can focus on the actual task at hand, which is drafting a creative release notes and making it more popular. And we see it happening with our customer already. So it has become a very interesting for them in their day-to-day processes.
Got it. Yeah. So I think thanks a lot for your time, Sujit, for giving us time for both the chapters, Singapore and Kolkata. And once this session is over, I will get the video from the Zoom cloud storage and I'll upload it in the YouTube channel. And so that everyone who missed the session can just go through this and get some knowledge about this particular app. Yeah, that's it from my end.
Thank you so much, Soman, for giving this opportunity. Thank you, Mani, for joining us today. And it was really nice speaking to you with you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you both.